everybody's having so much fun. Good evening. I'd like to bring the Wednesday, November 20th, New London Board of Selectmen's meeting to order. It's 5:30. Rich is going to be a little bit late, but we're going to start out and try to knock off a couple of items before he gets here, and if we finish before he gets here, we'll take a little break. First off, I just want to remind everybody that the public meeting is being recorded on video and audio. Will be posted on the town's website. We're also using an AI-assisted transcription tool to help draft the minutes. The approved minutes remain the official record. If you speak, please state your name each time and speak clearly so everyone and the recording can hear you. And to stay up to date, we remind you to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Okay, we're going to start off with the Center for the Arts and the New Year's Eve request.
If you could, just turn the microphone on, hit the button.
There's a button right at the bottom.
Oh, there we are.
There we go. And if you
Okay.
could just introduce
Thanks.
yourself.
I'm Jean Conley. I'm the chair of the Center for the Arts. And I assume people know who the Center for the Arts are, but perhaps some of you don't. We've been around for about 15 years, and we provide free and low-cost cultural events to the region. We recently moved into the center, a physical center across the street in the Village Shops. So we're expanding all of our programs, classes, gallery space. We do free First Fridays every month. We have a performing arts series and literature series. We provide scholarships and school grants, and we do quite a bit in the community. We have a really exciting event happening this year for the very first time, New Year's New London, which is going to encompass a variety of different things throughout the day and the evening. We've been working with Putnam at the Recreation Department, Ashley at the Chamber, Ben at the Library, and we plan to have events at throughout the town, throughout the downtown. Some of the venues will be St. Andrew's Church, the First Baptist Church, here at Whipple Hall, and a variety of events outside at the skating rink, things at the library, including magic shows and kids programs, all kinds of things. I have a whole list of things here that I can pass out if anyone's interested. We're just getting to the marketing part of this program now. But the big culmination of the evening, and again, this starts at 10 in the morning, all the programs from 10 to 5 are free family events. And then at 5:30, if people want to participate in what we're calling the adult events, although kids are free too, we have a variety of classical concerts, acoustic performances, dance performances, storytelling, of just a variety of things, square dancing. One of the things is at the end of the evening, we're calling it a DJ party because it is New Year's Eve, and we're having a countdown at midnight. We've been approved by the Selectmen to have this event at Whipple Hall here. We're working, again, with Putnam with the Festival of Trees and all of that. But we also have planned to have the Bluebird Mobile Bar come and their service to be here as well. And we're expecting them to probably be out in the lobby area, although this is a closed event. Sort of closed. People have to purchase a button ahead of time. There's a limited number of buttons being sold for this event, and people will have to, sign their name and their email and all that before they can be allowed to buy the button, and the button will allow them into this event. So people will not be walking in off the street. It will not be anything to do with people walking around town with alcohol. This is just a closed event. So we just need permission to do this. It's with Bluebird Mobile Bar Service, and it's Chelsea Williams. She holds the liquor liability license. We're in constant touch with her about how we're going to do this. And we're actually not selling the liquor. And I'm saying liquor, it's beer and wine. And soft drinks, but we're not actually selling it. She'll be providing the service, and it will be by donation. And after all of the expenses are paid, the net proceeds will go to the Center for the Arts. So we're here for your approval to do this, and if you have any questions, please ask.
All right. Janet, do you have any questions? No.
Oh, good.
Wonderful.
Good.
Yeah.
We're excited about it.
Yeah.
Just one thought.
Yeah.
I think I would feel a bit more comfortable if the alcohol was in this room, even if it was in the back, and not out in the lobby?
We're going to have somebody at the door at all times. We have
Okay.
3 Center for the Arts people and Ashley from the Chamber and the young professionals who are all here supervising everything that's going on. So we'll have somebody at that door at all times.
Okay.
It'll never be vacant.
Okay.
We're also hoping to provide some kind of snacky food, too. I mean, we don't want to just serve alcohol.
Yeah.
So we're working on that now. We're working on the food portion now. But it will not just be an open door for people to come in.
What will the hours be where they'll be serving alcohol?
8:30, the event is 8:30 to 12:30.
Okay.
So it will,
Snackies would probably.
yes. Well, right now we have cookies and we have potato chips, but we're working on more substantial food. We've asked the restaurants if they would donate food. We've tried to get like food trucks for the event, but no one is available. We're working on asking perhaps some of the organizations in town, the Rotary, the Odd Fellows, people like that have done food things for the town before, so we're kind of asking those people. And if worst comes to worst, we're going to Hannaford's. We're going to get a tray of sandwiches and sell them out front. But we do plan to have food along with the alcohol.
Okay.
Jean, have you run this by Chief Cobb?
I don't know if I haven't, actually. Let me put it this way. We applied months ago to the Selectmen, and we were approved. And I've asked a couple of times, is there anything else we need to do? Is there anything else we need to do? And I've been told, no, you're all set, you're all set, you're all set. And then at a meeting the other day, Putnam said, have you talked to the Selectmen? And I said, well, I didn't know I had to. So here I am, and I'm happy to talk to Chief Cobb or anyone else about this as well. I didn't know I had to. I thought the approval was sufficient.
And I've been talking to Chief Cobb a little bit as the event has been.
I'm trying to remember, like the spelling bee, they're serving alcohol. So did we require a detail officer?
No,
We didn't.
nope.
Yeah. I think it's fine.
It's not outside, it's a closed event.
Right.
People
You're
aren't
not gonna
walking
let
in.
anybody, you'll have a big sign, I'm sure, that says no alcohol allowed.
Absolutely,
Door.
absolutely, yeah, we wouldn't allow that.
Yeah, and highly suggest a good amount of snacky food.
Yes, yeah, we're working on it. If anyone has a suggestion, please see me.
Okay. Do we need to vote again? Or do we need to, we just signed the application, I assume?
Yes, and I do have the existing application as well, if you guys just want to re-sign it,
Okay.
just with the alcohol box checked off.
All right,
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
okay. Next, we've got Putnam, giving us an update.
Okay, so Putnam Kidder, Recreation Director. I am doing 2 things this evening. I want to give you an update on the new swings at Elkins Beach, and then also talk to you about getting a withdrawal from the Recreation Facilities Capital Reserve for the next phase of this project. So Ashley's going to put up some pictures. Can it be full? I think if you go to the present, maybe. There we go. All right, so these are the old swings, and we'll go to the next. That's when the swings were removed by the Department of Public Works. And this is the new swing installation in progress. That's what it's looking like as of this afternoon. So we're really excited about this new updated version. 2 swings and a little tot swing on the end for little kids. So we're really excited about it. It's in a great location. You can see looking right out towards the lake. It meets all the current safety and accessibility requirements, which is great. And it's been a big a journey, I would say. A learning opportunity about modern day playgrounds. We appreciate everyone's patience. Like I said, it provides a really good view, and it was not it was a team effort, to say the least. And just to put a plug into the other work that has been done, I don't have pictures of it in here, but it's in Municipal Matters about all the amazing work that's been done by the Department of Works, Public Works, and Planning and Zoning down at Elkins. It's really, really amazing. Every time I'm down there, I was like, whoa, they did work over here, they did work over here. It's really, really great. But we want to say thanks to the Selectmen, we want to say thanks to the Department of Public Works, the Planning and Zoning, the Recreation Commission, and all the residents who shared their views on the value of this investment. And this is just one step in a longer project at the Elkins Beach Playground. And I am here to ask to you about the second phase of it. And just to final numbers for this phase, the swings, we originally asked for a little over $14,000. The total for the swings was $11,630 for the equipment installation, the silt socks, which were erosion control, and then as well as the engineered wood fiber from Durgan Kroll. So that was a total of $11,630 for that. And we are coming tonight to ask for a withdrawal of $2,000 from the Recreation Facilities Capital Reserve Fund. These funds would be put towards hiring a landscape architect firm to evaluate the current playground and beach area and assess best options for future renovations and updates. This investment will be crucial to help define next phases of the project and support making sure we have as much information about the site as possible to facilitate future work. So this was recommended by the company we worked with, Altiplay, as a way to get a good sense of what we can do with the current area as we look into replacing the other aging pieces there, and then also to think about any other changes we want to try to do long range about further accessibility updates in that area. So this investment of up to $2,000 would give us a really good plan to work forward from. So we're asking for another $2,000 to be approved from the Recreation Facilities Capital Reserve Fund. And if we had both of those together, that would bring us up to $13,630 for both phases of the project, which would be below the original ask we had asked a long time ago for. So that's where things stand. Really excited about where things are at and excited for next steps. Any questions?
Janet, any question? No, you answered my question because I was noting the 16,000 withdrawal, so now it goes down to 13 something. So that'll leave us about 18,000 ballpark left in that account. Okay, and all right. Rich, you have any questions for Putnam?
I've got a ton. No, thank you, Putnam, I do not. And
Okay.
my
All right.
apologies for being a little bit late here.
So can I get a motion to, wait, do I need a motion to, let me think about it for a second, to spend the $2,000? Of $2,000. Can I have a motion to approve a request to withdraw $2,000 from the Recreation Fund?
So moved.
All in favor? Aye. Okay. All
Thank you,
right.
Putnam, it looks great.
Yeah, it does
Really
look great.
does, it's coming.
We need a picture of the select people swimming.
Next municipal matters. Yeah, on the town report cover. All right, so we don't have to go out of order now because Rich is here, so we're going to move on to Sam and Adam to talk about the Department of Public Works RFP update. Yeah, yeah.
Good evening. So just want to give a little bit of recap on the responses that we did get for the Public Works RFP for the benefit of the public, and sort of how we got to the point of the recommendation that Sam will go over in a minute. So late summer, we put the RFP out for design proposals from firms to address public works. In addition to looking at public works, assessing the potential for that property in general for potentially a police station, but also just another governmental use. So October 15th was the deadline. We received 4 proposals from 4 different firms. Sam and I started by reviewing the 4 proposals on an informal criteria. We did it independently and then went through each one, and surprisingly, they came out very similarly, which was nice to not have a whole lot of disagreement on the firms. And oddly enough, the 2 that we both liked happened to be the most inexpensive. And so then we passed things on to Ashley, who passed it on to the Selectmen, and they did their reviews. And so we went forward with interviews last week with Wyman Lamphere out of Burlington, Vermont, and LaValle Brunsinger out of Manchester, who most of you will remember we've worked with in recent years. And so last week, Sam, Ashley, Janet, and myself interviewed the firms. Each firm took the interview approach a little bit differently. Wyman Lamphere brought 3 of the consultants that they would use for engineering, landscape architecture, and the principal from the architectural firm. And LaValle Brunsinger brought 2 of the LBA designers and 1 of the subcontractor engineers. And we were able to go through presentations with them where they walked us through their design philosophy, their process, the different civic projects that they've worked on. Notably, they both have a public works project under progress right now in different stages, but Wyman Lamphere is through the design stages of the Warren, Vermont Public Works Garage, which was funded at the November 4th election, so they're moving forward with that. And LaValle Brunsinger is working on the Wells, Maine Public Works right now. So both had very timely projects to reference, which was really great. And it was, I think, very helpful for all of us that were there to go through the presentations, meet them, and sort of get a flavor for their style. Even if we've worked with them before, it's a different context. And so it was very helpful in that regard.
Thank you. Adam did the legwork there of getting kind of all that information out, so that's great. And I'm pleased to say that I think we should enter into a contract with Wyman Lamphere. Through the interview process, I was really impressed by their creativity, their methodical answers to our questions, and also ways and solutions to the project, and also their thoughts to not be afraid to review the entire scope of the site as far as buildings there, and if additions or remodels and things like that could help us to do that, which I thought was great, that they just kind of, they really showed that they were willing to work for us and work through the whole process with us. And also, you know, they had great answers to our questions, but also something that I thought was a great key point was that they're with us throughout the entire process. When it comes to public meetings and things like that, they want to be here to support, answer questions that the public have, and bring their team to show that, you know, they know what they're doing and they're prepared to do it for us. So I think that's great. And so the cost for that task 1 through 4, which I guess you could call their phase 1, is $77,240. We do have that kind of earmarked within the budget out of my paving services line. That would reduce the amount of paving that we would do in this budget cycle, but if the selectmen chose, we could use the transportation fund towards the end of the budget to make up that difference. So you could still get the same amount of paving done while also you know, getting this project underway. As far as Adam and I know at this point, I don't believe there would be any ask at this year's town meeting for any funds if we were to go this route. And then the 2027 town meeting would be when you would hopefully have the full amount for the project and such. So, yeah. Any questions?
Sam and Adam, in terms of Wyman Lamphere, they're located where in Vermont?
Officially South Burlington, I believe.
Okay. And what did you say is the project that they're currently working on right now at DPW in
Yeah,
Vermont?
they've worked on multiple DPW projects, but they have one underway right now that they helped the town. It seemed like it was, yeah, Warren, Vermont, yep. And it seemed like it was a little bit difficult for them to get it past the vote, but they did end up successfully doing it through some of Wyman's creative ideas, it sounds like, and the way they presented. And so they have they probably have the most knowledge in public works structures that we saw, I would say, so.
They also have a Manchester office. The individual that the principal who will be on this is out of the South Burlington office.
And for this, it's $77,240? Right? For that, could you just give us a quick overview of what that's going to cover?
Yep, so task 1 is existing conditions and site assessment. Task 2 is space needs programming and concept development. Task 3 is preliminary design, and task 4 is schematic design and cost estimating.
Okay. Were they able to give you any guesstimates as to what, and obviously there's a lot to be decided between now and then, but what were they thinking in terms of a final cost for a project like this?
Well, you asked the same question I did, so I'm glad you asked. They think somewhere in the $5 million is about where we would land, so.
Okay. And what were their initial thoughts as to what is possible on the existing DPW site in terms of buildings and structures?
They believe that we can obviously handle the lost space that we have now because you could increase where it is and, suffice with public works. But they did believe, just like actually LBA did as well, that there is space for another municipal building of some kind on site, so.
And would that other building be the kind of a building that could be a potential police department?
I think that I don't want to put words in their mouth. I think it could be a building of large square footage, but it would require creative site design, they said. That was also something that LBA said. And as far as permitting and working with Eversource as far as the easements go, so.
One thing that I thought was really interesting that came up in these conversations was really around the traffic flow down there and ensuring that if there's a municipal building where the public would be visiting, we have to make sure that that building is not in the way, or that the parking, that the way that the traffic rotation would happen on that space down there doesn't create any obstacles where a potential resident could run into a dump truck or a plow truck. And right now, the way that those buildings are set up, that certainly could happen if they were just to put a municipal building at where the closed down building is now. So I thought that was a really good point that I think we all sort of had in the back of our mind, yes, but they actually called it out. And said we need to get real creative with what that building would look like and what that traffic pattern, because we don't want them exiting out by the DPW buildings.
And as far as the conversation as far as what could go there, I think one of the things that I valued most about Weeman Lamphere was they really hadn't established a position yet, that they were really coming at it from an open mind. And one of the pieces of the presentation that they showed us, they're working with J Peak Resort right now on their maintenance shop, which is obviously slightly different than a Public Works, but has a similar flavor at the same time, and showed us how they have new drone technology to assess the full building, to look at the feasibility of additions fairly easily, and to quickly go through that comparison between addition and standalone building. Obviously, there are benefits cost-wise and to each. But that, to me, showed that they're coming at this from an open perspective. They haven't, before hearing what we really need, they haven't decided what they think the solution is. And so they left me with a strong deal of confidence that they would look at this creatively and from any angle that makes sense for what the needs are of Sam and his staff.
What sort of a time frame are they looking at in terms of those first 4 phases, getting those complete?
We didn't talk too deeply about that, but they thought it could be 5 to 7 months. It seems like that was also LBA had the same thought. So hopefully by middle to late next summer, we would know.
Okay. And so it sounds like we're looking, am I correct that we're looking at no sooner than 2027 to begin construction?
Yeah, if everything went perfect, it would be 2027 town meeting, and then if things were really well, it would be that spring that they could start, and construction is 12 to 18 months. So, I mean, we are at least 3 years away from moving into a new or modified public works structure, so.
Can I ask, Janet, you had an opportunity to interview these folks as well. You're comfortable with that recommendation?
Yeah, I thought both firms were very impressive, but I thought at the end of the day, it really is up to Adam and Sam to offer their opinions. They know more about the types of buildings and that sort of thing. My biggest concern was, can we put another municipal building on that site if down the road we need one, because we don't have any available property for other buildings. And they both assured us that they could do that. So I was really happy to hear that. Weeman was very impressive. I mean, they both were, but they were good. They look like people that would be easy to work with.
And to that point, too, one thing that resonated with Sam and I from their team, two of their members, one was the landscape architect and another is one of the site engineers. One serves on the planning board for the town of Hanover, and the other was a selectman in the town of Chelsea, Vermont. And so they demonstrated their understanding of the real decisions that are going to have to be made and the practical solutions, because they're living your lives on the other side of things. And so that, was a strength in our opinion.
And can I ask, what was LaValle Brensinger's quote?
Adam has that, just stand by 1 second. They were 67,000, so $10,000 more. But overall, if you look at the bottom line of the entire scope of the project, both firms end up landing in almost the exact same spot. So, which is also speaks to both these firms believe that the project would land around $5 million, because it's obviously based on a percentage of what they think the project is going to be. So that does help us also lean more to that. We've had good conversation as well with other construction contractors and kind of asked about what we're thinking, and it seems like the general consensus is that that would be pretty close to where we should be.
So, and just to be clear, that $5 million, that would get us a completed building at the end of the day. That covers all of our costs, correct?
Correct. Yep.
Thank you.
I would say, Rich, the one caveat that both firms mentioned is the unknown landscape of tariffs, and not knowing what that's going to do to construction costs over the next 18 months. And so they were both very mindful of, they haven't lived through a whole construction implementation yet in that realm. So keep that in mind. And just for interest perspective, the other two proposals that we received were well into the six figures for their cost proposals. So it was interesting to see how drastically different the costs were. One of them was well over 200,000 for the same set of tasks, which was.
And of course, I'm just, again, just to be clear, my assumption is that a lot depends on what we ultimately ask them to build on that site in terms of how many buildings and what are the buildings going to be used for.
Yep, absolutely. And then other things play into that, like stormwater management and soil conditions and things like that. There's always unknowns of a piece of property like this, especially when it's been commercially used as a public works for essentially 100 years now. Site contamination and things like that might go outside of what we know now, but those are things that we have to navigate when they come up and as we learn them.
Well, believe it or not, at $77,000, a friend of mine and his wife recently got an estimate for a new deck off the back of their house for more than $170,000. That was their reaction as well. Yeah. That's what they were thinking too. It must be.
Okay, all right, I'm all set, so I need to make a motion here and ask for a motion to approve? Okay, can I have a motion to approve entering into a contract with Weeman Lampier in the amount of $77,240?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. And we don't need to, we're gonna, right now, aim towards trying to get this money out of your paving line, so we don't have to make any motion to remove this from a reserve fund at the moment.
Yep, correct.
Correct?
And I'll come back to you probably in the spring or towards the end of the budget cycle and show you where I'm at and say that we might need to take some additional money from the transportation, or we might be okay, you know, depending on how paving prices are going. They're still continually going down because they're petroleum-based, so we may be able to do the same amount of work.
Fascinating. I see two hands up. Tom, if you want to come first, and Colin, or duke it out.
Okay, I'll do this correctly. Oh, it's on. Tom Forster. I wrote down a couple of questions while you're describing it. First of all, thanks for your work, but it was a lot of good information. Two questions. One is, you mentioned a couple of the unknowns. Have we identified a list of the unknowns that we know need to be evaluated and assessed when this is going on? The reason I ask is, you know, the more we can do now to pin this down, avoid surprises down the road, the better off we'll be.
So that is task number one. So task number one is the existing conditions and site assessment. For things like contamination, we had this conversation with, at least with Wyman Lampier. I don't remember if it came up with LBA or not. But the degree to which they actually have to explore that is widely dependent on where the building is actually going. If it's in already disturbed area where the building currently is, or where the, say the asphalt is between the salt shed and the existing lower shop, then they don't have to go down that route, they said. So in some ways we can control those unknowns to a certain degree, but that will all be part of their task one exploration.
Okay, but so we have identified some, but we don't say have a list, a formalized list of potential unknowns that we know they will have to look at specifically to get started.
I don't know of other unknowns and whether
Yeah.
It sounded like there might be others. That's why I was asking.
I guess I said unknowns, but I mean in the sense of stormwater costs, things like that, stormwater infrastructure, and to what degree we're improving the site overall and things like that could impact the project, or depending, like Adam was saying, on the site. If we go with an addition versus a new building, that could be far cheaper, and then change the permitting process through DES or something like that. So I guess we don't have a specific list, but it's also because the project in general is relatively unknown so far, so.
Okay. Okay. The other question I had concerns the potential other municipal building. I mean, police stations have very specific requirements and unique requirements. Are they going to dig specifically into the feasibility of a police station there, or is it more general? Oops, excuse me, I should be talking into here.
No worries. I would say it's more general. It's a broader, like, how, we kind of say if you take a overlay of the site, and could you just give us a bubble area of you could potentially fit a structure of this size with adequate parking and things like that around it. So it's pretty broad in what they're kind of looking into, not specific to a police department, fire department, or things like that.
What about
So-
the traffic issues that were, I think, yeah,
Well,
Ashley brought
that
up?
would be navigated if we got to that point and they then said, okay, for X amount of dollars or moving forward, do you want to explore that more? Then that's when those like flow studies and things like that would have to be done, traffic flows, to see if.
This would be additional work then. Okay.
Yep,
Okay.
yep, and that would be up to the selectmen to choose if they wanted to navigate that, so. But right now, I'm focused on just on public works.
Got it.
Thank you.
Thanks. Okay. Okay, thanks.
Thank you.
Colin Beasley, resident. Municipal building, what, did they talk about a maximum size of what that building might be on that site? Just so
I would
it
say
means-
no, ultimately. I mean, like, they had, LBA had a broad idea of what they thought it could be, but they gave it to us in the sense of two options for public works buildings. They kind of said, we think here or here is where you could do a building, and this is roughly of the size. I would say, Wyman didn't give us like a specific size of, we think you can fit a 5,000 or a 10,000 square foot building additionally on the site.
Will that
They
work,
just-
will that work, will there be some specificity of that sort coming out of this phase work as to what?
Yes.
The side?
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right.
And that's kind of what we were saying, and it will be kind of a very broad sense, like you could put a building of 10,000 square feet
Right. Yep.
in this location. Yep.
And those creative design issues or planning issues, that has to do more with the easement and how that could be orchestrated for a building?
Yeah,
high?
yeah. One of the firms had asked us, what's the town's relationship with Eversource? And they were looking to kind of probe into that more to see if we can, potentially navigate that and alter that to make that the site more usable overall for the town in any capacity. So,
Thank you.
yeah, thank you.
It's also worth adding, just for your update, that Horizons is currently undertaking the survey. They've been out there 3 times in the last week, so hopefully we have that information soon.
All right, I think we're good. Now, I'm looking at the clock, it's 6:05, and I believe that Michael Todd has a conflict or a commitment at 6:30. So Chief Cobb, would you mind? Okay, because I know you have to stick around anyway for dispatching fees. So we'll start with the SB2 conversation now. So thank you to the election folks for sending us your very detailed memo on your position. I definitely want to make comments, but I didn't know if anybody would like to stand up to make comments in relation to your position before the 3 of us start talking about it. I see Will sitting right up there by the microphone.
Michael Todd, Town Moderator. I understand that you've been presented with a memorandum dated November 18, which, have you had a chance to read that?
Yes.
That kind of sets forth the opinion of the election team, which consists of Will and I, with input from the supervisors and some of our volunteers that supervise the other volunteers. And this is just a collection of our thoughts in response to the report that was provided by the committee. And I don't know if, did you guys have any particular questions about the memorandum? I don't want to reiterate what's in it. I don't want to read it to you. I don't, if you'd like me to elaborate on any of the provisions that we mentioned in there, we're happy to do that. But in the interest of time, I'm just here to tell you that we presented this. This is our election team's perspective of it. And in a nutshell, I don't think we've kind of come to the conclusion that SB2 is probably designed to solve problems that we don't necessarily have. I don't think it's necessarily a good fit. They cite, we were able to tease out of the committee what the principal reasons were for their entering into this discussion and wanting to learn about SB2. And the 2 issues that I remember that we mentioned in the memo were low voter turnout at town meeting and possibly voters needing to be better informed. And I don't think going to SB2 is going to solve either of those problems. That's essentially what, I guess, is. Did you want to add something, Will? And I know we had a couple of the supervisors here too. If you guys want to chime in, I don't want to misstate what we've done, but I think in a nutshell, that's kind of where we came to.
Michael, I would just ask, for folks who might be watching this in the coming days, et cetera, is there anything else from your memo that you think is important, instead of just referring to it as something that those of us who have read it, are there any key things that you think that, again, for someone who may have not had a chance to read it, would want to know about what your thoughts were here?
Okay, well, first of all, for those that may not understand it, SB2 is in fact a ballot referendum form of government. And so instead of going to a public meeting such as town meeting and debating an article and then calling for a vote and having the attendees at the town meeting, yay or nay, each warrant article, and I'm talking principally about the articles in the warrant that are at the end of it, like 2 through the remaining articles. All of those articles are introduced onto the floor of the town meeting and discussed, yea or nay. If questions are answered about those articles, to be sure that the voters are properly informed. We also have the option of voting for secret ballot as opposed to a show of cards. And the warrant articles are disposed of in that manner. So if voters have questions about any article, they can ask them before it goes to a vote. And we can also indefinitely postpone articles that are stated in the warrant. The warrant consists of the town's business. It's what specific articles need to be addressed in the ensuing year for the town to carry on its fiscal responsibilities and pay its employees and borrow money as necessary and carry on the business of the town. And at the town meeting, anyone who has a question about any of those articles can ask it and get an answer before it goes to the vote. Now, the SB2 referendum form of government, everything is voted on at the polling place on election day. Therefore, when you, in addition to voting for your elected officials, which is presently what we do at a polling place day on the second Tuesday of March, we come and we receive a one-page, generally it's a one-page ballot, sometimes it's two-sided, and it shows all of the offices which have individuals running for that office whether their term has expired or other people voting, 2 people may be voting for the same or running for the same office, and the voters get to choose. And that's the only paper that they get on election day presently is the officials that need to be elected. Under the referendum form of government, SB2, they would get that same sheet, Article 1, and they would also get every single warrant article on the warrant with a yes or a no. Okay, that's interesting. And they would take that entire ballot, and if you've looked at your prior year's town reports, you know that in 2023 it took 4 pages just to print the warrant, and in 2024 it took 5 pages just to print the warrant. That doesn't count the ballot, the offices that we're running for. That was another 2 pages. So you've now gone from 1 page, two-sided, to perhaps as many as 5 or 6 pages, and every single voter will get 5 separate pages. They can't be tied together. 5 pages which they would take into the ballot box, into the voting booths, and they would mark, tick, 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 and then cast their vote for every single warrant article. And then they'd bring their stack of papers out, and they would be fed into the ballot counting device. Well, if you're going from 1 sheet of paper, maybe 2 if it's a school, well, you have to add the school ballot on too, because we generally vote then on that as well. It increases the volume of paper by 5-fold. That's 5 times as much being printed, 5 times as much being handled, getting it into the hands of the voters. They come out of the polling place, and they go to the ballot counting device. They're handling 5 times as much paper through the ballot counting device. That's going to take longer. The line is going to build up. In order to accommodate the privacy of voting, we'll probably have to buy more voting booths. And that raises the issue of whether or not we'll have room enough in this building to do it. If not, we'll have to go to the college. We can only, or some other venue, we can only utilize the college space when the college is out of session. So that limits the time that we can schedule a special town meeting. It limits the times, and as it is now, the bifurcated town meeting, we have to vote on the second Tuesday, but if we want to have a town meeting, we have to have it the week after because the college isn't in session until the week after. So it presents additional scheduling conflicts, particularly if you wanted to schedule a special town meeting. So there's increased costs, increased volume. It'll take longer. Possibly a second ballot counting device would be necessary. That's just on the election end. There's other issues relating to what we've seen from the towns that have adopted SB2. The SB2 referendum form of government has, in lieu of a town meeting, it has a public meeting called a deliberative session. And most of us have experience with a deliberative session with our school district, Kearsarge Regional. But there's a slight difference there because the Kearsarge Regional School District SB2 method is adopted by charter, whereas the municipal government SB2 is by statute. So they're not exactly the same. But most of us have had experience with the school district. I'm not going to launch into the differences between the two. We're just going to talk about conceptually here. What we've seen from the school district and also from looking at the statistics of the towns that have adopted SB2, they have noticed that the attendance at the deliberative session has been even poorer than the attendance at town meeting. Well, so you say, well, so what? Well, what goes on at the deliberative session? Well, the only thing that goes on at the deliberative session is a discussion about the actual language that will appear on the ballot. That's what you decide at the deliberative session. You start with the warrant given by the selectmen, you go to the deliberative session, and a discussion ensues about what words we take out, what words we put back in, et cetera, et cetera. And once that's finalized, it's a matter of weeks, several weeks, until you actually get to the ballot, the polling place with the ballot. The deliberative session has to be in January, and then the election is the second Tuesday in March. So the ballot is going to be fixed after the deliberative session. It can't be changed. And now we have this whole entire period from January to the second Tuesday in March where the voters could be subject to considerable misinformation. Other situations could arise that weren't contemplated at the time the ballot was created that manifest themselves before the election, and you can't adjust it because you can't change the ballot. Such as, for instance, when we found out that the town highway department garage was in danger of collapsing. That's something that happened in between. So I think it exposes us, it's a lot more rigid system, and it doesn't allow us the flexibility to adjust for items and events that happen in the interim. So for those reasons and the other reasons that I mentioned, we just don't believe that we would be better served to change to the referendum ballot form of government. We believe that we would be better off if we stayed with the traditional town meeting. Did that answer your question?
Indeed. Thank you.
Okay.
No, Michael, it was a very thorough overview. I appreciate it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and just, I'm not going to add a lot to it, but there's very little in this life that I feel as strongly about as town meeting being right for New London. You know, it's a tradition. It's the soul of New London. You know, we vote the same way that we voted in my mother's house at town meeting, as when my grandfather was town clerk for 35 years, as the 250th that's coming up. And that's important in this world. And the town meeting is about being a we and us talking together and figuring it out. And we're living in a me world. And I think it's important not to go away from the people coming together and discussing things. You know, a lot of this town runs on tradition. For example, every time I go to the bank, it's in a New London Trust bag. And I like looking at this and the people that it represents in the past, and it just makes me feel good about New London. Yeah, and you know, the nostalgia part, you know, that was a tough one for us to stomach, I guess. You know, it's just, We're not trying to deny anybody the right to vote. That is not what we're about. We're about being inclusive. We're about trying to include people. I mean, Michael runs to people's houses on the day of election or whatever to get other people to vote. You know, we're going to have new accessibility stuff at the next town meeting, and we're really working towards this. And the relationship with the college is so important. And we've got this great place now where we can have up to 2,400 people. And until we can't fit in there, I really just think the town meeting is the right way to go. But that's my thoughts.
So Rich, I would like to say that I'm the one now that they have the voodoo doll for because of this. Okay, so.
You mean I can take the pins out of the one at home now? Okay.
Please, I would appreciate it. But listen, I want to thank the elections team for this very, very thoughtful memo. I want to thank the SB2 committee for all of the work that they did. I want to just, say straight out that just because we requested the SB2 committee to do this doesn't mean that we were, supporting changing to an SB2. All this was just a request for an analysis, which is the responsibility of the Board of Selectmen when residents ask for these types of things. So
Well,
I thought
if I may, but maybe not, didn't want to interrupt you, but this is a complicated thing.
Yep.
And some of the towns that have adopted SB2 have experienced the voters on election day going into the polls and into the voting booths and voting their pocketbooks.
Yep.
And the town of Deerfield is one such town, and I think the town of Sunapee is another such town. And the town of Deerfield has not passed the budget in several years. And it's at the point now where the infrastructure is beginning to show it. And this relates to the complexities associated with what happens if the people go to the voting booths and they vote the budget down. What happens? Well, the statute has created this fallback position known as the, quote, default budget, which is a creature of statute. And you simply take the prior year budget and certain line items are in at the same amounts, and then you are permitted to adjust certain other items. And it suddenly gets very complicated, and it's beyond the scope of this meeting, other than to say it's complicated, the preparation of it is complicated, figuring out who's going to do it is another complicated issue, and how does the budget committee and all that fit into, I have not thoroughly researched all that, only enough to know that, oh boy, here we go.
Yep.
So for a variety of reasons, I'm not supporting it.
Yeah. The memo here outlines significant and legitimate concerns about operational burden. Some of the things: cost, ballot complexity, and community cohesion. But I think one thing that did come out of that SB2 analysis committee was the need, which you've talked about, is really to educate the voters more. We really need to do that.
And
Ashley and I were batting around ideas today on our drive back from Manchester with a voter's guide, if we can pull it off this year, some little video things and lots of things.
I support the voters being well informed.
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about this voter guide that you mentioned. And there's a couple of issues that I don't know the answers to. How would you disseminate it? Would you put it on the website and let people go fishing for it? Or would you email it to people? Or would you mail it to everybody by parcel post?
Yeah.
Do you have it available for them to carry it into the voting booth where they go to the voting booths? Then you have to have extra people to make sure the voting booths are clear after each voter goes in, because there's not supposed to be anything left around. Presumably it wouldn't constitute electioneering materials, although you're going to have pro and con for every warrant article, and it's going to get, it's yeah,
If I remember correctly, and you lived
there are
in
challenges.
Massachusetts for a bit of time. If I remember correctly, the ballots in Massachusetts stated pro and
Oh,
con.
I never voted in Mass. Sorry. Maintained residency in New Hampshire. I don't know how I did it. Kept my New Hampshire driver's license, too.
Yeah. No, but there are, and I think the idea of putting the tax implication for each warrant article on the ballot is really important so people can see. I think a lot of really good ideas have come out of this exercise, even though it was uncomfortable for a lot of people, and I really appreciate the time.
And just remember that the adoption of SB2 by itself does not address the issue of voters being well informed.
No, it doesn't. Agreed.
That's a totally separate animal. They're not at all related.
Yep.
They need to be present in both systems.
Yep.
But the acceptance of SB2 on its own has no effect on that.
Agreed. Janet, would you like to make any comments? Because I'm prepared to make a recommendation, but we should continue this conversation.
Should we listen to any comments by one of the members who created, we're on the SB2 committee?
If we want, but I think we've already given them, we gave them a lot of time.
Okay.
At our meeting a couple weeks ago.
All right. Well, I do have some.
If you want to, okay, go ahead.
Based on my attendance at deliberative sessions for the school budget, with the exception of the last one, there's very low attendance. The majority of people in attendance are the school board, municipal budget committee, ballot clerks, and teachers. A motivated minority can sabotage amendments, as was the case at the last meeting of the school district, although that plan failed overwhelmingly. Special interest groups focus on deliberative sessions and push their agenda. Election voters will not hear the discussion for and against proposed amendments, and the time between any discussion at the deliberative session and the actual election voting will cause confusion. Weakened local debate erodes community involvement. Democratic deliberation and local engagement are valuable. The consequence is quality of decision-making. The town clerk and ballot clerks have stated quite clearly the cost of SB2. I've heard from residents, our neighbors in Sunapee, and I read comments from other communities that have enacted SB2, and the comments are not favorable for SB2. They regret what they have lost with town meeting. I appreciate the effort by the folks that studied SB2 and the amount of time the ballot clerks expended replying to the report. However, I believe in preserving local engagement, preventing low attendance manipulation, and protecting deliberative democracy. For these reasons, I am opposed to SB2.
Can I ask, if you don't mind, Madam Chair, could we just open it up to comments from the public? And I do have a few comments,
Sure.
Including, of course, Colin from the original group. Anyone who might have any thoughts?
Yeah, and I just want to reiterate that there wasn't a recommendation that came out of the SB2 committee analysis. It was just analysis, and it was really up to us to review their report, and I thank them for that. Go ahead. Yeah.
My question is with SB2.
You gotta say your name.
I think I
sorry.
recognize your face.
Yes, that's true.
If you could identify yourself, please.
Sorry, my name is Ben Anderson. I'm a resident of the town of New London.
Are you related to anyone else in the room?
Possibly. I cannot confirm or deny that. With SB2, would that? I've literally just came in here like 5 minutes ago, but I'm trying to understand. That would stop town meeting. Sorry.
The town meeting, the formal meeting of the town, understanding that historically, years and years ago, before 1983, on the second Tuesday of March, all the people would come to this room here. They would vote for their officers.
Okay.
The polls would open at 7 a.m. They would vote for the officers on the ballot, and then it would start at noon, and then at 12:30 the meeting would close and reconvene at 7 p.m. that night to deal with the rest of the warrant articles from 2 up to however many there were. So it all happened at the same day in this room. In 1983, they bifurcated. So we have our voting on Tuesday all day for the people that are running for town office and other elections, state elections, federal elections, whatever. That all happens on Tuesday, and the school election all happens on Tuesday. And then we adjourn that and we reconvene the next day the next evening at the auditorium down here for our meeting to address Articles 2 through whatever, the other warrant articles. Okay. So our town meeting is a time when we discuss and deliberate and vote on Articles 2 through 20 or however many are in the warrant that year. We discuss them one at a time, debate them one at a time, and vote on them pretty much seriatim as they appear in the list.
Okay.
Now, with SB2, that discussion section is replaced by a deliberation about each of the warrant articles.
Okay.
And the language that will appear on the paper ballot that they will vote on the second Tuesday of March, because the deliberative session occurs in January by statute. It must be so many weeks ahead. So you have your deliberative session, and that deliberative session, all you do is discuss the wording of the warrant articles and get them how you want it to appear on the ballot that they're going to vote on on the second Tuesday of March.
Okay.
So, and there's certain things you can and cannot do in the deliberative session. You cannot delete a warrant article.
Okay.
If the warrant, and you start with the warrant that's presented by the selectmen, and then you can change the wording in it, but you can't take an article out. You can't take a whole warrant article out. It has to be left in there, and if there's an appropriation that the deliberative session doesn't want to have, they just make the number 0 instead of what was proposed. And that 0 vote goes on the ballot, and it goes to the polls, and the people check it yes or no.
Okay, so it's basically like the deliberative session would, is that correction is with SB2, the deliberative session would basically almost become like the new town meeting? We would cut.
It's as close as you get because they're not essentially the same.
Okay.
In a town meeting, you start, when you put the article on the floor, you're using the language that is printed in the warrant. You can amend it on the floor and discuss the amendments and then vote.
Okay.
But with deliberative session, if you're going to do that, you amend the article at the deliberative session, and then once you got the wording the way you want it, it sits there until they vote on the second Tuesday of March.
Okay.
So there's this big gap between discussing what goes on the ballot
And when it's actually
when
voted
you
on.
actually vote yea or nay.
And so it's like we're like trying to combine the deliberative session with, are we just trying to abolish the deliberative session, or?
What is being considered is moving away from discussing and amending an article and voting on it at that moment.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay.
At a town meeting, you amend, you strike, you adjust, you accept, and the voters vote. Done. With a deliberative session, you decide what wording you're going to put in there, and you agree on the wording, and then you set it aside, and the ballot is printed, and you take on the second Tuesday of March, 2 months later, or a month and a half later, then you get that language on the ballot in the polls, and you mark it then.
Okay.
So that's what I meant when I said that things could happen between the time the ballot is fixed at the deliberative session and the time people vote. Things could happen.
Yeah.
Municipal highway garages could fall down, all kinds of things could happen. That's why the town meeting has traditionally been in such a form that you discuss the town's business at that meeting when everybody's happy and had all their questions answered, then you vote. That's true discussion, and then moving the question and then voting, as opposed to bifurcating this thing and having the ballot fixed already here, and then we'll deal with it 6 weeks later down here on the second Tuesday in March.
Okay.
That's the difference.
Okay.
And they claim under SB2 that, well, hey, more people went to the polls, more people voted on the warrant because it was on a ballot.
Okay.
That's their claim to fame. More people vote.
Yes.
Right. But we think that it's more or equally important to have that discussion in a public meeting and vote right then.
Okay.
That's the position that we think better serves us at this time.
Correct me if I'm wrong then, there would be it would basically, during the deliberative session, the things you vote on would just basically pass, and you wouldn't have to have like another vote like in here.
You have to have another vote. The deliberative session decides absolutely nothing except
Okay.
what the language is going to be on the printed ballot that the voters will see 6 weeks later at the polls.
Okay.
That's all that does.
Okay. Thank you.
No wonder so few people go. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm no,
if you
I'm
have
no authority on SB2. I only know what I've read, and I'm trying to explain it.
And if you have additional questions, I know where you live, so.
Happy to answer.
No, thank you for asking.
You know, I just would state briefly, again, my thanks to the folks who worked so hard to analyze the SB2 question and to kind of lay it out for us. I thought you folks did a terrific job. You know, to be clear, I'm certainly with Janet on this in terms of, you know, I've had the pleasure now of going for 18 years to New London's town meetings, and the gentleman who just spoke went to his first one when he was 1, and I don't think he's missed one since then, actually. And I do, you know, I think Will phrased it very nicely when he mentioned that we do live in this kind of me world now, and that this is a rare event that's a we event. And while it is not perfect, and it is at times perhaps disappointing that we don't have better turnout at the town meeting, I have always been fascinated. Heidi and I often describe it as the best free nights entertainment that you'll get all year, because the discussions are so robust, and it's kind of, sometimes it's like watching a tennis match back and forth, and I always find the discussions and the deliberations very thoughtful, and at times very humorous. My favorite perhaps being when someone suggested that we make a motion to name the police dog Sparky some years back. But these are the sorts of things, though, that, you know, these discussions, I think it is part of what makes this community what it is. And so while I appreciate the thoughts, I will say, I'll just also say, having been on the Municipal Budget Committee for the last 18 years, and having seen the deliberative session, which has, you know, traditionally, as Janet said, very poorly attended, and that's with 7 towns, New London just being one of 7 towns. The fact is that the deliberative sessions are not, they're not comparable to town meeting at all. And so, you know, when I look at that juxtaposition, even though, again, understanding Attorney Todd is completely correct that there are some differences technically between SB2 versus what we have through the charter, but the fact of the matter is that it really doesn't compare. And in fact, it's oftentimes very disappointing that we just don't have more interest in kind of where the school system is at and what we're trying to do and what we're looking to accomplish with the budget and what the choices are that have to be made. And so, yes, I certainly agree with Janet again that I would only support staying with our current system.
Okay, thank you. So I recommend that do we need to make a motion on this, Ashley? Or to just simply state, I don't believe either that we need to place any kind of warrant article for town meeting this year suggesting that we change to SB2. I would also suggest that the selectmen perhaps create a statement of some sort that could also go onto the website voicing our support for leaving things the way they are. And then we work really hard towards doing a better job educating
Yeah, I
the
agree,
voters.
and that's the best thing that came out of this in my mind, is that, you know, we need to communicate more and differently or whatever, and we can do that within the confines of what I think is the better system.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Mr. Beasley.
Colin Beasley, resident. Thank you for your input. So given the decision that's been made, there were, on page 18 of the report of the SB2 committee, there were a few other items that we asked the select board to take into consideration. One of them we talked about, which is getting some sort of voter guide up to the people, and it sounds like you support that. The other item was to address including the tax impact on the articles. It's my understanding, though I'm not an attorney, Michael, or you research in this area. I don't believe you require the voters' input on that. You can make that decision on your own. So you could execute policy today
Yeah.
to say that all articles would include on it the tax impact of it.
Okay, so let's do a little research on that to see what the process would take for us to do that, because I think it's a great idea, and
And other towns have done
other
it,
towns
so,
are doing it,
yeah,
yep, and
yeah,
you've
I sent that
submitted
to
to
you.
us
Yeah.
examples.
It's a great idea.
Yeah, it is a great idea, so let's, and somebody actually even said that we used to do it at some point.
I believe someone did say
Yeah,
that.
so let's do a little research into that and how we can put that back into place or
It
in.
just adds for more transparency, right?
Yeah,
So,
agreed.
And then the final item was to address whether the town might want to increase the select board size to 5. I don't know what your thoughts are about that. I'll leave it at that.
Okay, maybe that's further conversation as well. I think, yeah, we'll put that in the parking lot. Okay. All right, excellent, thank you. Thank you, everybody, for being here tonight, really appreciate it. Okay, so we're gonna go back now to Chief Cobb.
Folks, I apologize. My brand new work laptop apparently doesn't hold more than an hour's worth of charge, and it has died, so I apologize for that. So I am no longer projecting the agenda.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, ladies.
Do they have a copy of the memo? They do. Okay. All right. So thank you for having me tonight. As you may recall, at the beginning of October, we had a major piece of our door access system fail. Ultimately, it was discovered that a piece within that panel actually caught fire, and it charred a portion of the panel, rendering it inoperable. And so based on that, after having let the select board know, I was tasked with researching different vendors to provide door access control systems for the police department. And so I have done that, and I also, at the same time, in speaking with the board and with Ashley at town office, interpreting the idea to go out and look at different vendors, also realizing that our camera system, which is typically a system offered by the vendors who would give us door access control prices, I asked them also to get us some quotes for some camera systems. And then that rather morphed into, it got bigger and bigger. What about the town office? Recognizing that the town office, the academy building, is lacking in both door access control besides keys and a camera system. There is no camera system there. And so based on that request, I received and met with different vendors. Ultimately, I got quotes from 5 different vendors, including our current vendor for the door access. And based on that, 2 of those vendors rose to the top of my list based on their products, understanding of the scope of the project. And what I mean by that is that one vendor just emailed us a quote, didn't even come on site, so they were kind of off of my list of consideration right away. The geographic location of their headquarters and basically their responsiveness and how I felt that they were working with me up to this point. And so after I had the top 2 vendors, I really drilled down even further into them, comparing their products and service. And I also consulted with our VC3 strategic advisor as to what his thoughts were on the compatibility of these systems from the top 2 vendors that were proposed to us. And both he and I agreed that the choice vendor would be Key Communications. and they are based out of White River Junction. And so Key Communications.
Chief, sorry, can I just say, I do think it's important to note that Key Communications is not our current vendor.
That is correct. Yep. So Key Communications would provide a cloud-based door control system that would allow browser administrative control, which is important in some of the tasks that we would want our door control system to do. In speaking with Will and with Ashley, it would also allow for something like the remote unlocking of this front door at Whipple or at the town office if someone was meeting in the Sid Crook room on a Saturday. We wouldn't have to task a staff member or trust a citizen, give them a key to the building, so to speak. So we could have remote access for that. And IP cameras with a network video recorder. And so as I've written in the memo, both of those systems would provide a much needed upgrade from our old antiquated systems. Our current camera system is also outdated and in need of upgrade, like the one of the cameras here, the one up in the corner there, you can see just kind of shadows and blobs on the screen, but you couldn't probably make out who was sitting in the audience. So some of the cameras in this building no longer function, they're of poor quality, and we've replaced portions of that DVR system over the years as well. It's quite old. And so the following page is a breakdown of what Key Communications has offered us. And so I've broken it down into several different quotes. So as you'll see, there's a quote for the Bucher building door control, the Whipple building door control system, the Bucher and Whipple cameras, and Bucher and Whipple camera wiring. It's important to note that those two quotes, although they're separate, they have to go together because all of the wiring over at the Bucher building is still coax cable. And so we would need to upgrade to Cat6 cabling in order to support a camera system. And then the Academy building door control and Academy building cameras. So it's also important to note that Key Communications had offered a 10% discount in the shopper, so I made sure to mention that to them because it's a big number, and they were certainly willing to apply that here for all of these quotes. And I had let them know that I would be meeting with you here tonight. I didn't really anticipate you making a decision tonight, and so I asked for a little bit more time because their 10% off quote was, or offer was going to expire December 1st. So they've given us till the middle of the month, December 15th. So what I thought is we could discuss it here tonight. I could let you know what my findings have been. You could think on it until perhaps your next meeting on December 4th. I mean, unless you want to make a decision tonight, that's up to you. But that's why I asked for a little bit more time from Key just to honor that 10%, which they agreed to do. So the total cost for Bucher doors, Whipple doors, cameras at both of this building, this whole complex here, the Academy building door control and Academy building cameras is $92,191.23. And as you can see, there's about a $10,500 savings from that 10%. And in speaking with Ashley, she had advised that the funding source of the project could be from the town building maintenance capital reserve. And I suspect Lynn has those numbers for you. And so that's what I have.
I've got them here, and it's actually, it's a positive, because you had already kind of put 70,000 aside to come out of that for this project. And we'd put 250,000 estimate for the DPW project, which now is only going to be 77,000. So I think we've got plenty of money in there. My question, I think you were going to ask Chief Cobb, is if this equipment can be moved.
Right. So yes, and I did ask some of that question. So the door controls, like any of this equipment could be, could be moved. However, if the police were to vacate the Bucher building, I suspect you would still want to maintain and you kept the Bucher building, I suspect you might want to maintain some sort of security system there of some kind. It might not need to be as robust as what the police needs are. You probably don't need door control at every single door practically like we have. So we might be able to move some of those components out and just have a somewhat lesser system if Bucher were to maintain there and the police weren't in the building anymore. But yes, so some of these things are all able to be moved.
Okay. Janet, do you have any questions?
So Chief, you mentioned one thing that they needed to upgrade. Can they do all of the work to install the cameras and the locks? Or is there something, do we need somebody else to, was it the cable you said? That
Oh, the wiring,
Yeah,
yes.
wiring?
Yep, so that's just how this company gives their quotes, is they separate out the wiring. So yeah, that's something that they would do. That's related specifically to the camera system. So I just wanted to make clear, I guess, that the Bucher and Whipple cameras and camera wiring, one cannot exist without the other. In order to get the new cameras, we need the wiring to take place.
Okay, thank you. And also, how long will it take for them to perform this installation?
I suspect it would take a few weeks.
Oh, that's all?
Yeah, I don't know exactly when their start date would be. Actually, I forgot to ask that question, when they might be looking to begin, but I can ask that and get back to you, certainly by the next meeting, or I can give the information to Ashley and she could share it with you. But some of it, you know, they can't take down locks on one door and leave it inoperable for us, especially as like getting into the booking area. So some of that work has to take place all in the same time. But if in the event, let's just say that occurred where they were doing work in the booking area and we weren't able to get into that area and we had an arrestee, I would likely bring that arrestee to a neighboring police department to process them. Sunapee has a facility and so does Newberry. So I would ask to use that agency if we needed to.
Did they indicate that they were available to do this once it's approved, did you get any sense that they could start right away?
Yes, yep, yeah, relatively soon. Again, I don't know exactly what their plate of projects is, but I did get the impression that they would be able to start the project.
But I'm sorry, Chief, just when you say relatively soon, what does that mean? What are you guessing?
I would think within the next couple of months.
Okay.
They also have a local footprint here, which I know Chief mentioned. But she and I talked quite a bit about that, about having someone that is local. So in the event something did happen and a system went down, or like what happened the beginning of October, that there is someone within our general vicinity that could get here quickly.
That's another thing. I did some reference checks on some of the companies that I got vendors for, and I received very good references from another police agency that also uses Key Communications.
Did you get any other quotes from the other?
Yes, I got 5 different quotes, actually 6, 2 from one company. So the other one that was in my top 2, so to speak, came in at, all told, for the same product, $132,000 and change. And ultimately, again, in talking with our strategic advisor, Dan Jones from VC3, we both felt that Key Communications was just a better fit for our needs, and it did happen to be more inexpensive than this other company. I will say for the other quotes that I got, I only got quotes from those other companies on the doors, because I think at this point when I was getting these, the project hadn't morphed into what it is now, which included cameras and the academy building. But it was pretty clear that the other vendors just wasn't going to be a good fit for us. So that's why I decided to rest with the top 2 candidates, so to speak, and really drill down with them.
That's good. In the future, I would put the other quote on there too.
Oh, sure.
Just so that we can see.
Okay, I can do that.
And then highlight your
Compare it.
recommendation.
Oh, sure, that's a good idea. Yep, thank you.
You have further questions? Rich?
Yeah, just a few, if you don't mind. Chief, just first of all, with the existing system that we have in place, is there anything from that system that can be, understanding that a lot of it is out of date now and would need to be scrapped, is there any of the existing components that can be utilized either elsewhere or someplace else on the buildings, that sort of thing?
The door control system at the police department, they'll be able to utilize, as I understand it, the wires that are existing, that are already running in that wall. They won't use like those scramble pads that you see on the wall. We'll have to cover those with a metal plate or something. So there'll be like a card reader or a fob reader using those existing wires for the door control.
But I mean, in other words, in terms of things like the cameras and the door
Oh.
controls, et cetera, like that, can any of those be, effectively, taken out of this building and potentially utilized anywhere else, or are they?
In terms of the door controls, I would say no, because the system is already so old, and there's not a vendor locally that services that type of product anymore. That's the issue that we ran into with our current vendor, is they were dropped as a client from the manufacturer of that product. And so they said, well, we can refer you to somebody in Boston or New York City that could come and service your product. And I thought New York City might be a little bit far, as was Boston. The labor and the mileage charge would certainly be too much to bear. And as far as the cameras go, Rich, I doubt it, because it's all run off of coax cable, which is a really outdated type of camera system.
And Chief, can I ask, under the new system, in terms of cameras, both for Bucher and Whipple as well as for the Academy building, how many cameras are we talking about for both structures? And also, are they going to be located in the same places that we currently have cameras?
A lot of them for the Bucher and Whipple, yes, they will be. There's 37 cameras for Bucher and Whipple, and I think there's 8 for the Academy building. And it does include the ice rink.
I'm sorry, includes?
The ice rink, like one facing the ice rink. 8 cameras for the Academy building and 37 for the Bucher and Whipple. And I did go around with Will at the Academy building just to make sure I was in a good place of understanding from what the folks who live in that building every day and work in that building every day would be looking for. Because it was up to me, I'd have cameras everywhere, but that's for the police department.
Okay, great. Well, I don't know about you two, but I would be okay with approving this now, unless you want to wait.
Everything, we always hear repeatedly about the safety of this building, and I think, and also of the Academy building, and I think it's important that we go ahead and do this.
What I'm really excited about, especially in terms of the cameras, is just the accessibility of the system, and it's going to cover some blind spots that we have here already at Whipple and Bucher, and then to have some eyes, so to speak, at the Academy building, I think is incredibly important for safety and security of the employees and the citizens that visit the building.
Yeah, long overdue.
Yep.
And lastly, can I just ask, in terms, and I wouldn't expect you to go into any details in a public forum about exactly how this will work, but in terms of, for example, the Academy building, with the cameras, et cetera, will there be, for example, a display unit that is available for the folks in the Academy building to monitor what is
Yes.
going on outside?
Yes, we talked about that. Casey was there that day. We talked about where a monitor might be able to go so that whoever's at the front desk there would be able to see the exits, the entrances, the 2 public entrances. Actually, we put one on the employee entrance out back as well. And those cameras, my understanding, would all be in the same bank so that dispatch could also see those things live time, much the way we monitor our camera system here at this complex right now.
And if need be, could the individual at the front desk lock down the building easily?
That is my understanding as well, yes, is that those doors, you have the ability to isolate one area, if you will. I don't know how user-friendly it is right now. I haven't looked at that or used that part of the system, but I suspect the same way that you could unlock the Academy building for a Saturday meeting at Sid Crook, you could make sure it's locked as well.
Okay. So, I'm going to take a motion, I'm going to ask for a motion to approve the expenditure of $92,191.23, or should I say up to that amount? Well,
Sure.
out of the town building maintenance capital reserve.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, Lynn.
Mine's pretty quick, I promise. So once again, during last budget season, it was talked about some improvements for the sewer, our main pump station. Those bills have been submitted to me, and I just would like to, as agents to expend, to authorize the withdrawal of that money. I am requesting $58,592. That's for pump replacement, and then $82,747.57, which is for control panel and alarm upgrades to the plant. The current fund balance is $147,771, and after the withdrawal, we will be left with $6,432. But we are putting, we intend to put more money in for fiscal year '27, which will bring it back up. And there aren't a lot of larger expenses coming down the pike, so we should be okay for a bit on that.
Okay. So am I going to do this as two separate motions?
You can, or I can just do the math real quick, and you can do it as one.
That'd be great.
I should have done that initially, sorry. It's been a busy week.
I can do it too. I can do it.
Okay, so 141, 339.57.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve spending $141,339.57 from the Sewer Equipment Capital Reserve Fund?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. All right, next, we have dispatching fees.
It's me.
Oh, okay.
Chief Cobb is more than welcome to come up. She has been a huge support along with Lynn for the past week. So as I mentioned at the last Board of Selectmen meeting, we did receive the dispatching call numbers from Chief Cobb. She sent those over to me. I have spent time plugging them into the spreadsheet template that we have. We've got historical view of all of them. And then I've spent time with both Lynn and Chief Cobb earlier this week, just ensuring that all the formulas were ticked and tied, and there were some places of static numbers that I wasn't sure where Kim was getting those from. We've identified that. So all that to say, we do have numbers. They will be published on the website tomorrow. I know that I've received multiple requests from community members for those numbers, so they will be available tomorrow. Both on the website, and I'm happy to email those out as well. So just a few highlights. The fee for dispatch, and just a reminder, dispatch is for New London, Sunapee, Newbury, Wilmot, and Sutton. But we have used the same calculation that we have used for past several years for calculating those fees. The New London made up 57% of the call volume, and the remaining other towns took 43% of the call volume. And we will get those letters out to the respective towns tomorrow. I'll give everyone a call and let them know what their bill is for us for those calls, and then we'll pop it into the mail as well. And then for you all, I have the agreements that you sign once a year, those agreements with each town to provide dispatching services. So those are here for your signature, and we'll get those out with their bill as well.
Why are these numbers percent of total? Why are those percent numbers? Oh, percent of the, I got it, 100% of the four towns. Newbury is
Correct.
40% of the four towns.
Correct.
All right, that was confusing to me.
And then New London is on its separate line item down below.
Percent increase. Okay, so New London's portion is 391, 293. The year before it was 362. Okay. All right. Sorry, we didn't see this before the meeting tonight. Okay. So you need us to approve these costs here, and then you're going to be communicating with the towns tomorrow?
Correct, and then we'll get your signatures after the meeting as well. I do think it is important to note, and we have put this into the letters that are going to all 4 towns, that reminding folks of the billing for fiscal year '26, so the current fiscal year that we have already billed for, was a reduced amount, and let me just read this so I get it correct. We wanted to provide clarity regarding the FY26 invoice for dispatch services, which you will notice is higher than last year's billing. The reduced amount in FY25 was a result of grant funding we received, which included coverage for the first year of system maintenance. Because our go-live date occurred during FY25, the first year of maintenance costs were fully covered by the grant. As a result, this fee did not need to be paid by the participating towns for FY25. That maintenance fee has now resumed as scheduled in FY26 and is reflected in this year's fees.
I see. Yeah, because that's a significant increase for some of these towns. Okay. Got it. Were they aware of that? Okay.
Yeah, that's why we opted to put it into the letters. They were informed
Yeah.
in FY25 earlier this year. This is just a friendly reminder.
Okay.
We basically, the reverse of that, basically your fees are lower, this is why it was stapled to every invoice that went to them, and we did remind them then that your fee will go up next year.
Okay. All right. So do we need to make a motion to approve this amount that's being, do we have to make a motion for anything? No. Just sign it.
Yeah, I think you just signed.
Okay.
I think you guys, I was going to say, it does look like you guys approved last year. You did make a motion.
Can I just ask a couple?
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because, again, as the new guy, for example, 2023 calls for service, New London had 19,000 versus 8,000 for the other 4 towns? Or is that the total number of calls being 19,000?
No, that is for New London. That was 2023. Yes, 19,270. Go ahead, Chief.
Yes, no, I think you answered it
Yep.
correctly. Yeah. And I think in the meantime, we got a new CAD, computer-aided dispatching system, that allows us to track calls better. So what I believe was happening, especially before we got this new system, is that the town of New London had some other calls that didn't need to be billed to the town of New London, but weren't able to be broken out under the old system. So I think it's now a much better reflection of the actual calls for service that the town of New London is using the dispatch center for. And the other important thing to note is that we go on a 3-year average. I know last night the budget committee, the ambulance mentioned they're using a 5-year average. They had changed their billing system recently, or their fee system recently. And we use a 3-year average so that in the event a town has a real high year, a real low year, it's not a big jump or a big dive either way. As you'll see, the town of Wilmot, for example, has almost double the amount of calls from 24 to 25. They added a police officer during that time. So you would expect to see a jump. New London's calls from 24 to 25, we were down a police officer for that entire year that these calls were taken from. And we had another officer out for several weeks on a family leave. So that's going to produce fewer calls for service. But again, that's the benefit of using a 3-year call for service average.
So I'm sorry, Chief, I'm just still confused as to the lack of a police officer, why that results in fewer calls from dispatch.
Because we just don't have that officer out on the road. We don't have another person out generating calls for service, that kind of thing. We're down a police officer. We're down a whole person generating and using calls for service. The calls still come into the police department, but we're very fortunate to be very proactive here in New London. So it's that many fewer, perhaps, motor vehicle stops or directed enforcement patrols or something else. So that could be one of the indicators of why the numbers would jump from one year to the next.
So 2025 calls for service, is that the fiscal year 2025?
No, the billing cycle is from November 1st to October 31st of each year. And so these are the police and fire calls, the calls that we answer for each town.
And so that 11,702 number for New London for 2025, that's the complete number at this point, is that right?
From November 1st of '24 to October 31st of '25.
And so we really dropped by 7,500?
Wait,
Yeah,
sorry,
I
what,
looked
what
up-
number you just mentioned the 11,721?
11,702.
Oh, okay.
Those were the calls for service.
19,270, and I'm just thinking.
Oh, yeah, believe me, when I saw that number, I also looked at it, like, what happened there? But I think, again, there's a variety of factors. We were down a police officer for quite a bit of it, and we had almost 2,000 fewer directed patrols. I don't know exactly why that was, but I also drilled right down into those numbers and what did we do. I think we were actually, we were down in some calls for service and up in others and static in others. So, I mean, crime statistics and data that we have as far as calls for service it's a whole can of worms. But that is a little bit lower, certainly than in years past. So, but
Well, it
in
is-
turn, that means New London is paying less, and the other towns are paying more. Also, because like the town of Newbury had almost 2,000 more calls for service from 2024 to 2025, so they're going up, but it's because they're using the dispatch center more. So it's really trying to be fair and equitable across the board with a 3-year average of calls for service.
And so ultimately, the cost for New London in the coming year that we're looking at is 391, 293?
Yes.
And is that the total cost for the dispatch?
No.
No.
The total cost for dispatch is the 680,683.
No, I'm sorry, I meant in others, but New London's share, that's our total.
That is New London's share.
Okay.
My little math here.
Would it be possible to get, unless this maybe shows it already, I'm just thinking to show what we've paid in the past years versus what we're paying in the coming year?
Yes, so in 2025, our number was 362,418. I don't have the 2024 fee for New London, but if you look over to the right of the page, you'll see there's a 2024 and a 2025 fee for all the other towns. So you can see what their charge was and then what their fee is for this year.
But without seeing the total,
Oh, like the total dispatch budget?
Yeah,
That would be in your worksheets, I think, in your
Binders.
because what I'm just trying to get at my arms around is whether or not our fees are significantly increasing or significantly decreasing. Or, and, I can see 25 and 26, but
Sure.
I'm not.
Yeah, I think if you wanted the bottom line number of dispatch, that would be best found in your workbook.
Okay.
4219, right, Lynn? That's the number, I think? What's going on over there? What's going on over there? Some water
I
sounding. Sam left,
Right.
so nothing bad can happen.
Right. I suspect that if we look, we could find those reports for previous years.
Oh,
which
I
would
have
give you
them
the same
all,
exact
yes.
information, so that might be helpful.
Yes. Could do that.
That sounded expensive. Okay.
I never heard it. So interesting.
Okay, I was just doing our math.
If you find something wrong, tell me, because I have done this math
comes
5
out
ways to
to-
Sunday, and I hope
Yes.
I have.
Yes.
About $33.43 a call is the New London.
Oh, I thought mine was less. I had done it,
I did
but I
it,
might have.
I didn't do it by the 3-year average, I did it by our 2025 calls. So-
Oh, okay,
so
I did it
if
off our
I did it by the
average.
3-year average, it would come out to less.
It's less, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
What's the dollar amount?
If I do it on the actual number, 11,702, it comes out to $33 a call, which we learned, Chief and I, that's pretty good.
Very good rate, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So, what do we
There's-
need to do? Nothing.
No motion. Oh,
yeah,
sorry.
there's a
You do need to make a motion
To
to,
approve the
yes,
fees that will be charged to the other 4 towns.
exactly. And then we will sign these after.
Okay, so may I have a motion to approve the fees charged to the other 4 towns.
Second.
All in favor? Aye. Okay.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you, Chief. Okay, Town Administrator report, and then we're getting to public comments.
And,
Bill.
if you don't mind, do you mind just telling us what that dollar amount was that we just approved in total?
$289,390 will be billed to the other 4 towns.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Yep. Thank you.
Update on the sinkhole and the Hannaford sidewalk. We have sent a letter to Crosspoint, which is the owner of the shopping center, what is called Mountain View Shopping Center. We have sent a letter to them asking them to consider pulling together key parties to have a conversation. Lake Sunapee Protective Association has also sent a letter. Little Lake Sunapee Protective Association has sent a letter as well, and the Conservation Commission will be sending their own letter, similar, just asking that they consider bringing together key groups to have a conversation, not only about the sinkhole in the sidewalk, but also about the catch basin there, and the runoff that is occurring into Murray Pond and then subsequently into Little Lake Sunapee, and from there on. So those letters have all been sent except for conservation, which I know Bob is working on, and we'll try to follow up with them and see if we can get a meeting on the calendar with them. Wells being dug around the dry cleaners. BB and I had a conversation around this on if we had any information regarding if there are any parameters or any stipulations on how close to the dry cleaners people can or cannot dig wells. Nick Bear, our health officer, has reached out to the Department of Health and Human Services to ask that question. That email went out Monday or Tuesday of this week. So I haven't seen anything come back, but we've at least posed the question to ask.
DES.
DES. And then just an update on the strategic plan. Dr. Dorothy Hitchmoth is the community member who is pulling this together. What I have asked her for is to go out there and look for any towns that do have any strategic plans that they have been able to produce. She said that it was very difficult to find anything that would be between the 5 and 10 year range, but she was going to continue looking. And I asked her to pull any examples that she has, and then really to call out what are the topics in that strategic plan, so that we have an understanding of what is going into a potential strategic plan for us. So she is in the data collection.
Lebanon's got one.
Yes. Yep. We do know that. Those are all my updates.
Okay, it is time for public comments. Is there anybody here this evening? We know Mr. Helm would like to speak. And after Mr. Helm, anybody that would like to speak on anything that's not on the agenda.
Thank you. And I want to say that having just had my eyes fixed, I apologize for thinking that that screen wasn't adequate. You can now sit in the back of the room if your eyes are correct and see it. It's absolutely fantastic. Thank you. I'm well aware of the time issue. I simply want to talk to you briefly about your funding responsibility as you're continuing to look at various financial issues for next year. It's been the town's practice for well over 20 years now to bond major infrastructure projects in one way or another. And in the work that you've been doing so far this year, you have a variety of major infrastructure projects. So I would like to simply put on the table that you consider a bonding issue on the warrant this year in the amount of something in the order of $1,100,000 to cover 4 buckets of outlays that you have got planned. One is the Whipple and Bucher work related to security systems, and as Chief was talking about earlier, and the roof on this building and other projects here. Second of all is a variety of paving projects, principally the sidewalk, but also the fire station apron. Excuse me. The third is the DPW facility. If you're going to bond any of that. You may not need to do that, given the discussion with Sam here tonight, so that might knock $100,000 or more off of this. And then last but not least, a variety of academy building projects that are on the outlay list for this year. And they total in the order of $1,100,000, but it could be any number that you would like to look at. Based on information that we had last year on the $955,000 bond and just extrapolating that to the current year, it would cost about $85,000 in principal and interest charges in the first and subsequent years. So that's the cost of the bonding. However, I would also suggest that if you did this, you could reduce your contributions to capital reserves in the coming year by $450,000, because you wouldn't need to transfer money for the building maintenance projects and for the sidewalks that you're currently planning to do. And so, in fact, you could reduce your current budget that would be of interest to the taxpayers by about $375,000, or essentially keeping this year's cost about the same as next year's cost about the same as this year. So I just wanted to put that on the table and have you think about it. It's something we've done for 20 plus years. It's probably a good time to begin to think again about bonding as a source of funding rather than simply loading long-term infrastructure projects into the current operating budget. So happy to answer questions, but I'm also well aware of the hour.
Yeah. So you're saying bond for how much?
I had $1.1 million, but I've heard some things tonight that suggest that maybe that's a little high. So it might be closer to $950,000 or so. You'd really have to sharpen your pencils and want to decide what to include and not to include. But there are those. You have the Academy building, you have this complex of buildings, you have the paving projects, and that alone would be quite sufficient, even taking the DPW out of it, although you might want to start to anticipate some of the early stages of beyond the $77,000 they were talking about tonight. Okay. But I think so often we get to this point in the year. I've been here for a number of years between myself and my other person I live with, like you. I know some of the other people. We've been doing this since 2008, and it's always important before you get too close to preparing the warrant to think about long-term debt as a reasonable way to fund infrastructure projects, not equipment, not small amounts of money, but just big-ticket, long-term infrastructure projects that can stand the eye of a 25-year bond.
Yep.
Thank you.
Happened to see the municipal bond folks today down in Manchester, and I have their rate sheet right here.
There you go. I know what their rates were in July. And I know there's some things we can't do. For example, someone might want to say, well, why don't we throw water in there? Well, in talking to Ashley before the meeting, she threw some water on that.
Yeah.
We can't do anything because it's a separate municipal organization.
Correct. We can't do we can't.
But all the other things that I mentioned are well within your control to do.
Yeah.
And it certainly seems to me it's an interesting opportunity to consider what you've done, what the town has done in many years in the past, in bonding these major infrastructure projects, and at the same time, relieving the amount of money that has to be raised by taxation next year.
Okay. Will you submit a quick memo to us on that?
I'm retired.
No good deed goes unpunished. I did mention to Bill that we had talked to the bond bank at the conference today. I think procedurally there are a number of things that need to happen before we can bond for something like this. Every single one of those things needs to pass at a town meeting before we can go to the bond bank, and we have to consult with bond counsel as well. So just procedurally, there are some things that will need to happen.
And that's why we do it now, Ashley, because that happens at town meeting, and then we would go to the bond bank. They normally are January and July. I assume that's still their system. So the town meeting would pass various articles in March.
Yeah.
And you would go to the bond bank in July, or back to the old-fashioned system of asking the local banks whether they wanted to be of assistance. I simply, for ease of discussion, mentioned that.
You were well-versed in this, for sure. I want to make sure that folks in the room understand that we can't use bond money like a line of credit.
Right.
It has to be very, very specific, ticked and tied past a town meeting. So I know you all know that, but I want to make sure that
Well,
folks
and,
in the room
and
are
if
aware
people
as
are
well.
on the video and so on here, you can go back and look at the, in the town report in the financial section and see the various issues that have been
Bonded.
set forth for the last 20-some years to do exactly what we're talking about.
Yep.
So, thanks.
Thank you.
Thanks, Bill.
Okay. I've lost my agenda. All right, here we go. Committee meetings and reports. Yeah.
The Housing Committee met last Friday and are finalizing proposed amendments to the zoning ordinance. They are meeting again this Friday and hope to come up with the wording that they will use for the warrant. On Monday, November 17th, there was a fire wards meeting. Chief Lyon gave an update on recent department activities and reviewed the budget meeting on November 12th. The new chassis for the tanker is due soon, and the apparatus will be out of commission for approximately 1 month while it is being installed on the tanker. Chief Lyon also reviewed the status of the conditional offer that has been made to a potential firefighter. There was discussion of longer response times due to the lack of volunteers responding to calls. It was noted that 36 firefighters are needed to combat a house fire. Chief Lyon stated that he will be retiring as of April 1st, but will be available to mentor the next chief. The fire wards were asked to enumerate specific criteria that will be important for Chief Lyon to instruct the new chief. At the planning board meeting on Tuesday, November 18th, a lot merger was approved for the Masonic Association of King Solomon's Lodge, which is located at 453 Elkins Road and Elkins Road. This small corner lot is across the street from the Elkins Dam. The Masons will now receive 1 tax bill instead of 2 for their property. Even though these properties are in zone R1, they do not have water and sewer. It's actually an R2 zone. Okay, and that was it?
Okay. Rich, your budget committee?
I think the most important thing, we've had a budget committee meeting last night as well as one a week ago. At the one a week ago, yesterday, 8 days ago, there was what I would describe as a spirited discussion as to the status of a potential additional firefighter, a paid firefighter, in which the chief, again, as well as Mr. Ensign, indicated their belief that this was a vital thing to move ahead with. And I explained, why my position has remained what it is in terms of an additional paid firefighter. In terms of last night's meeting, the key thing that really came up, we had a large number of presentations from everything from the various lake protective associations to CASA, et cetera, and essentially largely without any particular anything unusual or what I would describe as, sort of contentious. The only thing that came as a bit of a surprise that I do want the select board to be aware of was that the Energy Committee came forward with a request for $150,000 to be put into capital reserves, which we had put in $50,000 was our number. And there, unfortunately, was some confusion with the Energy Committee in terms of when they were supposed to come before us. My recollection from what we refer to as the budget jamboree going back a month or so ago was that we did have some group that did not show, and apparently it was the Energy Committee. I guess they were surprised.
The Energy Committee did respond to the budget jamboree request saying that they were unable to attend. I think that the members that were at the budget committee meeting last night potentially didn't communicate that. But I do have an email back saying that they were unable to attend the Selectmen jamboree back in October. The person who was speaking last night, I don't think knew that.
Got it. Yeah, and so the issue was that they brought forward a number of 150,000, and we were all looking at our sheets, and everyone's saying, we have $50,000 in ours. You know, is this a typo, or is there some miscommunication? And they were surprised because, and essentially, you know, and I've already indicated to them that I do believe it will be important for them to come before the select board in short order to explain their position and why they're making the request that they are. You know, I will say that they laid out several potential projects that they are interested in exploring. We've recently, as you know, completed, my understanding is the array is in place now on the fire department building, and I believe is live at this point. Is that right?
As of yesterday, yes.
Okay, which is terrific. That's great. My understanding is that represents about 5% of the town's electrical consumption will be now handled by that array. And again, I'll let them get into it in more detail when they appear before us, but what they were indicating was that they believe there are several potential areas for significant sites. You know, for example, one of the ones they mentioned was possibly the transfer station on the building there, putting a solar array on top there that would largely take care of all the electrical requirements, I should say, of that complex. Those were the sorts of things, and they did indicate that for several years, apparently, their budget requests were actually zeroed out, and so they were hoping to get it back up to a number that would enable them to move forward with significant projects.
Yes, their capital reserve requests were zeroed out, is what they were saying.
Right, exactly. And, you know, so as I said, you know, the only thing I could tell them was that, you know, my assumption would be that the select board would expect to hear from them in short order. I would hope maybe at the next meeting.
Did they have any cost estimates for any of these projects?
They indicated that they were looking into several things right now, but they did not have any specific numbers. You know, the one, for example, that they were talking about that they did throw out a number that they were estimating perhaps, for example, $50,000 to $60,000 for an array on top of the transfer station.
So even with the planned 50,000 that we had put in the budget, it leaves a balance of 160,000 in their account.
Right. Yeah, and one of the things that was brought up, and I do think it's important to mention, is that with a new potential complex at the Department of Public Works, there's nothing that prevents us from making a solar array, for example, part of that whole project, just like windows or doors, you know? Yeah. And so certainly that was one of the things that they mentioned, and will definitely be something that, to my mind, there's no particular reason why we need to make that a separate issue, but rather than that can simply be part of the project. Right. But I will say overall, I like the idea of them having funds available so they can move aggressively. Because one of the things that was pointed out was that in 2019, the town apparently did make a commitment to be carbon neutral by 2030. And we are, as I understand it right now, with the new system coming online at the fire station, we are roughly at 45% of that goal, but we are still not even quite at the halfway point. And which Chair Kelsey suggested that we could just, you know, vote at town meeting to change that date, which was not necessarily something that the Energy Committee was enthusiastic about. And you know, candidly, nor would I be. I would not be enthused about moving those goalposts, as it were. But that's kind of where we were with that. That was the most significant issue that came up at last night's meeting. So my apologies for the length of that presentation.
I also think it's worth noting that the 150,000 that was referenced last night is not the number that came over to us with their budget requests back in October. So
they did actually give you a number back in October?
Oh, yeah.
And it was?
75,000.
Oh,
75, okay.
Okay, all right.
Interesting. Thank you.
I would definitely appreciate them coming before us because, number one, I can't imagine that they've checked with Sam regarding the structure at the transfer station and whether it is sound enough to take a solar array unless they're thinking of a ground-mounted. And also, I don't imagine that the transfer station uses a great deal of electricity. I'm not sure it would be valuable to put it out there.
Well, the only thing is certainly my understanding of the way these things work is effectively they're feeding into the system.
Into the grid.
So in other words, and so there's a meter, and whatever the amount is that's generated, we would be getting credit for it, even if it actually is more than the transfer station uses.
Yeah, well, that site is so small anyway, I doubt that a ground-mounted array would be a good idea there, and I really would make sure that those buildings are secure or stable enough to have
Oh, sure. Yeah,
solar
absolutely.
on their roofs.
Agreed.
So I think there are a number of questions for this.
And no, and that's where, I'll be eager to hear what they can present to us.
Right.
So why don't I ask them to come to the December 4th meeting?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay. I don't think I have anything. So next, we've got meeting minutes approval for the meetings on October 29th and November 6th. I have one change to the minutes for October 29th, and that is on page 2. The motion to fund the 2.5% step increase and 1.5% COLA. The motion was not approved unanimously. It passed 2-1. I voted against that. That's the only change I have. Does anybody have any other changes?
I was wondering if we could put off until the next meeting the approval of these, because I had
Yep.
quickly scanned them, but I didn't have a chance to look at them more thoroughly, and I'd like to do that before I vote yes.
Sounds like a plan.
Thank you.
Okay, upcoming meetings. Thanksgiving Day, the town office is closed on Thursday and also closed the day after Thanksgiving, Friday the 28th. Rec Commission meeting Monday, December 1st at 5:30. Energy Wednesday, December 3rd, 5:30. Budget Committee Wednesday, December 3rd at 6. And Board of Selectmen, our next meeting is December 4th. And then we have a Citizens Advisory Committee on Saturday, December 6th at 7:30. I will be here. I'm happy to go to represent all three of us, if neither one of you want to get up at 7:30 in the morning. On Saturday, Emergency Management, Tuesday, December 9th at 9:30. There's just a little typo there on that. And Planning Board, December 9th. Okay, I think we are good. We'll be approving pay vouchers and signing stuff. And if anybody has any other questions, thank you. We don't have to go in non-public for anything, right? Okay, thanks.